and you can go to that, and you can go to the lower right-hand corner and click on more. Click on events and search for Remnant Church. All the notes, all the scripture, all the pictures are there. So that way you don't have to take screenshots. You can just copy them right off your phone, and you can follow along. But before we get into that, let me ask you this. Oh, that's me. Let me ask you this. Did people see love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control when they encountered you this week? We talked about this last week, and I challenge you, did they see this in you this week? Now, you don't have to answer out loud, but ask yourself the question. Did people see love, joy, peace, and patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? Did they see it in you? And if they didn't, how come? What were you up to that they didn't see this in you this week? I was at a veterans commemorative event. I don't know how to say that. Sure. At the Green Bay Yacht Club with all Thurston Howell III and Lovey. I'm just kidding. They were really nice people at the Green Bay Yacht Club. The yachting club, I learned. It's not just the yacht club, right? Because you don't have to have a yacht. You could just have like a boat. Yeah. Anyway, right. Yeah. Anyway, I was at this veterans thing, and I was standing there, and like I was there to take pictures. That was my job, to take pictures. And so I wasn't there to be a pastor. I wasn't there to be a Christian. I wasn't there to be a Jesus person. I was just there to take pictures. But as I was taking pictures, there was this guy. He was like my dad's age, probably like his mid-80s, and he was just sitting by one of the tables, just by himself, with his coat on, a little hunched over, and just so sad. He was just by himself, and it was easy for me to imagine, like maybe this guy's wife just passed away. Maybe last year she was with him at this thing. Maybe he was thinking about that. Maybe he was just alone. But I was there to do a job, Jimmy. If Jimmy caught me not shooting pictures, he'd be like, bro, you were hired to do this job. Not really. Jimmy would never say that. So I went to one of the veterans group people. I said, hey, listen, do you guys see that guy over there? Could one of you, because they were all women, they were all women. You should go over there and just ask him about his day or ask him how he's doing, right? And so one of the women went over there, and I was watching, right? And that guy's face lit up. He had teeth. I didn't even know he had teeth. And it was beautiful to watch him light up and engage with this person. And so if you ask me, did people see love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control this week because of me? Yep, that guy did. It'd have been weird if I went up to him, because I don't think it would have been as much, because, girls are funner. When you're an 85-year-old guy, I feel like a 20-something-year-old woman is like super fun to talk to. And so that was the one thing I did. What was the one thing you did? Did you do anything this week? There was a woman while I was eating at the Bellevue Cafe. I was having breakfast with a friend, and there was this woman, and she was like also older, I guess. She was probably in her 70s, but she was beautiful. She's just beautiful. And so on my way out, I went up to her and said, listen, lady, you're so pretty. You're like famous kind of beautiful. That's how beautiful you are. And she got all like, it's my birthday. I was like, well, happy birthday, lady. Like that. So that lady saw something in there. Love, joy, kindness, goodness. What did you do this week? I'm not trying to compare you to me. But I want to be able to answer that question all the time. Because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the way of Jesus. The way of Jesus is expressing love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control all the time to everyone we meet, whether they're white or black or green, whether they're Democrat or Republican, whether they're rich or whether they're poor, whether they're men or whether they're women or whether they're something else. Doesn't matter. This is what I'm called to do. This is the way of Jesus. So last week we began our series on the way by discussing John 15 and what it means to abide in Jesus, to spend our time and rest in Jesus. How the way is a distinct path of following Jesus, his teaching, his example, and his spirit. About how religion can often derail us from that, where we get so focused on the tasks of religion that we forget about this. We get so wrapped up in the rituals and the trinkets of religion that we forget about this. How faith isn't just believing in Jesus, it's learning to live with him. We talked about how if we were a cup of tea and we could either steep ourselves in Jesus, right, where the tea bag is just in there forever, or we can just dunk it. Remember we did that? It's still nothing. There's no tea in there. Oh, there's a splash. Right? And this is how most of us in our religion, in our faith, we're just dunkers. Right? And we're wondering why we're not this really deep, meaningful cup of tea. Right? We talked about all the work that we should do to point back to Jesus. We talked about how when we abide in him, he'll abide in us. This week, we're moving on to another path of following the way of Jesus, and that's around the idea of love. Today, we'll explore the posture of Jesus, the resistance in us, and the pattern for us. But let's just pray real quick. Father God, I just pray, Father, that you're with us for this conversation, that you use these initial words as a launch of our discussion within ourselves and around our tables. Lord, that you're just present in this, that we grow closer to you through our time together. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Way back in 2003, the U.S. had invaded Iraq. And so it's hard to believe that that's nearly 25 years ago. The video and photos that we got back from that invasion were breathtaking and heartbreaking. One thing I remember, though, was the Marines tearing down big statues of Saddam Hussein, right? And they would drag him, behind their trucks through the streets. And the newly liberated Iraqis could be seen beating the statues and other representations of Hussein with their shoes. They would take their shoes off and they would beat the statues, or they beat the posters of Saddam Hussein. Within the Middle East culture, to beat a person or even a person's image with one shoe is to show the deepest possible form of contempt for that person. A few years later, President Bush was closing out the U.S. occupation in Iraq alongside the U.S. Prime Minister in Baghdad when this happened.
The agreement lays out a framework for the withdrawal of American forces in Iraq, a withdrawal that is possible because of the success of the surge.
جنوده وجنود الولايات المتحدة والمدنيين فإننا نقترب كثيرا من هذه النهاية.
شكرا جزيلا.
Clearly, the attacker wasn't trying to kill the president. I mean, a shoe, you're not going to, unless it's your mom throwing shoes at you, then that could kill you. But instead, he was trying to insult him in the worst possible way. He took off his shoes and threw them at the president. That's how filthy feet are considered in the Middle Eastern culture. I'm going to think of you. I'm going to take my shoe off. I'm going to throw you. Like, this is how little I think of you. It's the worst insult we could give someone, to take something off of our sturdy, filthy, disgusting feet, right, and throw it at you. So keep that in mind as we read this. Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hours had come to leave this world and return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was the time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table and took off his robe and wrapped a towel around his waist and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that he had. Now, we've heard this story forever. If you grew up Catholic, you remember the priest doing he's going to wash the feet of 12 random men, right? This is just a thing. But we overlook how this isn't just a matter of washing feet. The feet were the worst possible part of a person's body. If I want to insult you, I'm going to put my feet in your face. So keep in mind the repulsiveness around feet. And keep in mind the relationship between the disciples and their rabbi. So this wasn't just one guy doing it for another guy. This was a rabbi doing it for his disciples. Now, while the disciples were required to do much in the service of the rabbi, they would never have been required to wash his feet. In fact, if a Jewish person had a Jewish slave, they were not permitted to require that slave to wash their feet. The only person that could wash your feet if you were a Jew was if you had a Gentile slave. And then you could say, hey, Bob, or some Gentile name, I don't know, Gentile, right? Come and wash my feet. But you were not allowed to ask a fellow Jew to wash your feet because it's so disgusting. And here is the Christ, the Messiah. This would have been astounding to the disciples. Not just a fellow Jew, but their rabbi. Not just a rabbi, but the Messiah, the Christ. And he's washing their feet. They would have been astounded. And John sets the scene with something stunning. Jesus knows that the cross is just hours away, yet in this horrible event that's on, it's tomorrow for him. It's tomorrow. Like the beating, right? And the scourging and the crucifixion and the dying and it's tomorrow. And instead of thinking about that, his response is to serve someone in the lowest possible way that he could, which would be, I guess, the highest possible way that he could. He had loved his own, and he loved them to the end. Jesus, fully aware of his identity and authority, takes off his outer garment, kneels, and washes feet. This is the king with a towel and not a throne. Here, where the towel represents servanthood and the throne represents kingship or royalty, he's saying that the servanthood is greater than the throne. The towel is greater than the throne. The key thought here is that Jesus didn't serve in spite of who he was. He served because he knew who he was. I know that I'm the Messiah. I know that I'm the Christ. I know that I'm the Son of God. And because of that, I'm here to serve you. Not, I'm entitled to this. Don't you know who I am? Sometimes I get that way. But you know, bro, I'm Scott Eastman, man. I'm just kidding. That doesn't mean anything anywhere. But I feel like I'm entitled to something I'm not entitled to. It reminds me of like a leader in a company who, like, rather than just like parking in the best parking spot and taking a private elevator to his office with a private bathroom, like it reminds me of a leader of a company that like picks up trash on the way, right? Or stops at every floor on the way. When we talked about Ruth, remember we were talking about the story of Ruth and that guy. Who's the name of the guy in the story of Ruth? Thank you. We talked about Boaz and how when Boaz showed up in the vineyard, everyone's like, oh my gosh, Boaz is here. Hey, Boaz, God bless you. And he's like, no, God bless you, brother. Right? It was like he had that relationship. And that's who Jesus was. A leader in a company who's picking up trash. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? And Jesus replied, you don't understand now what I'm doing, but someday you will. No, Peter protested. You will never wash my feet. Trying to set himself higher. What's it called when you do this? Like when you're grandstand virtue signaling? Here's Peter virtue signaling, yes? No, Peter protested. You will never wash my feet. And so Jesus replied, unless I wash you, you won't belong to me. So then Simon Peter exclaimed, then wash my hands and my head as well, Lord. Just not my feet, do everything. And Jesus replied, a person who has bathed all over does not need to wash except for the feet to be entirely clean. And you disciples are clean, not all of you. Peter's protest, Lord, you shall never wash my feet. Why? Because grace feels uncomfortable. Being served reveals our pride. No, I don't want you to do that for me. Did you ever do that? It reminds me one time I was at coffee. Maybe it was with one of you. I don't remember. I was at La Java on, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. But that's the place that's by Costco, right? La Java, they've got a second place because it's also like in De Pere. It doesn't matter, Scott. Luna, thank you. La Java is that other place. I was at Luna. And I was having coffee, and there was this, one of the wait persons who didn't seem particularly happy, which is true of Luna a lot, by the way. It just seems like they're so mad about something. Anyway, so there's this one lady at Luna, and so she was a little bit crabby, and then she was on her break, and so she went outside to sit outside, probably to get away from all the people. But it was cold outside, you guys. And so, like, I saw that, and right away, I got up and I took off my sweatshirt, right? And I brought her there. Hey, listen, you look so cold out here. And I went to give her my sweatshirt. You know what I mean? She's like, no, I'm fine. Thank you. Like, all right, that's cool. But, like, I wonder, like, what prompted her to do that? Like, was it because she didn't want help from somebody? Was it she thought like I was a creepy old fat guy? She didn't want some creepy old fat guy around them. Like, I don't know what it was. But could it have been like she didn't want help from anybody? Could it help that she didn't want grace from anybody? Because sometimes I'm that way. I don't want you to give me something because I don't want to owe you something. Or I don't want you to give me something because I don't feel like I deserve that something. I'd rather just pay for it. I'd rather just pay my own way. We don't want grace. And sometimes we treat Jesus that way, where we have grace, but we don't want to take it. Sometimes we'd rather serve God than let him serve us because receiving feels vulnerable. Look at all I'm achieving by serving God. Look at all who I am by serving God and not letting God serve me. Do you see it? And Jesus' response is, if I don't wash you, you have no part with me. We must first allow Jesus to serve us, cleanse us, and love us before we can love others. You can't pour out what you haven't received. Grace must flow to you before it can flow through you. It's like if Ryan's phone didn't have any power, he was at 3% and I was at 98%. I can't. You know what I mean? He can't unless he's got, you know what I mean? Unless I've got the power, I can't transfer the power. And so I need that from God. I need God's grace and recognize God's grace in me so that I can make a difference for somebody else. After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you example to follow. Do as I've done to you. I tell you the truth. Slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends his message. Now that you know these things, God bless you for doing them. Jesus puts on his robe and sits down and says, I have set an example for you. Now you should do what I've done for you. Not think about this or cherish this, but do this. The kingdom of God is upside down. Greatness is measured not by how many serve you, but in how many you serve. Matthew 16 says, whoever wants to save their life will lose it, upside down. But whoever loses their life will find it in me, upside down. It's the upside down principle. Surrender equals true life. In 1 Corinthians, it says, God chooses the foolish, weak, and lowly things to shame the wise and the strong. Upside down. God delights in using the unlikely and the overlooked. And I'm here to tell you, I don't know about you, but if I was picking a team, like I would be on the unlikely and overlooked team. Like that's me. I don't fit in. I'm a weirdo. I'm extra, whatever. But it says that God delights in using the unlikely and the overlooked. Matthew 5 says, turn the other cheek, love and pray for your enemies. Upside down, where the kingdom love is radically different than natural retaliation. In fact, let's look at that whole passage in Matthew. It says this, you have heard the law that says punishment must match the injury, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say, please don't lose sight of this. But I say, this is the law. And Jesus says, but I say, be better than the law. Do not resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek. If you are sued in court and your shirt is taken from you, give him your coat too. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. Give to those who ask and don't turn away those who want to borrow. Jesus is the thing. This isn't a thing. You punch me, I'm going to punch you. This isn't oh my gosh, hey. How are you? How nice to see you, brother. God bless you.
Can find this place.
Oh, yeah, we're kind of hidden.
Oh my God.
Everyone say hi to my friend Mike. You can sit right here, Mike, right in the front row.
All right.
It's not a matter of equals. It's not a matter of giving someone what you got. That's not what's up. That's not what we're supposed to do. There's a beautiful expression of this in a recent season of The Chosen. I'm going to show you this scene. And so this is a fictionalization. There's nothing in the Bible that said this event actually happened. But it's a beautiful way that expresses what Jesus was trying to say. Could you show that clip for me, Chelsea? Hello! Jewish citizens!
Everyone remain calm.
Disarm yourselves and leave your bags. You're carrying ours now.
Under Roman law, a soldier can force a Jew to carry his things.
At random.
There is a legal limit, a maximum of 1 mile and no further. Master, this is humiliating. We will comply with dignity.
What must it be like walking around all day with no medal weighing your head down? Ever have helmet hair? You too.
I'm rolling to 3. That's right.
Beautiful. I think that
I'm not made of straw, Matthew. I can carry it.
Hurry along, rats!
rats with nice hats.
Master, let me take that. You should not have to. No. It is no more unsuitable on my head than any of yours. Oh, no, that is not true. Thank you for your concern, Judas. I got you. It's not that I'm humiliated. I am. That I'm so murderously angry at doing this to him.
I've done this plenty. It doesn't get any easier the next time.
Now. Which one of you does this belong to?
I never could have imagined a moment like this.
We said to submit, so we submit.
The painful irony of some of his teaching.
You know what the holy men who perform the circumcision say?
What?
The pay is lousy, but we get to keep the tips. Economist, the sign is the mile marker. Your entire lives, I bet you've never been so grateful for the enshrined Roman law.
We know this has been an honor for all of you.
Stop here! I said stop!
The destination is that outpost a mile ahead, yes? It is, but we're only permitted 1 mile. By coercion. There's no law against citizens assisting you the rest of the way of their own volition. Come, my friends.
But
If anyone says anything, say that we offered.
Rabbi, what are we doing? Why would we just help Romans?
Judas, where did we meet?
At the sermon on the Chorazin Plain.
Good. Whenever you are troubled, think back on my message.
maybe let us take back the helmets. So there's no confusion at the outpost.
You like?
I'll take it.
I've got it.
Hey, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile,
Go with him too.
Isn't that, sorry, I turned, oh, sorry. Isn't that the truth? Again, a fictionalized account that didn't happen. There's nowhere in the Bible that says what happened, but I definitely feel like that's what Jesus was teaching. And I feel like there's something in it for us. Like, I feel like I'm Judas. Like, I'm the guy, like, no, listen, don't you know? Don't you know who he is? Don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I'm entitled to? We have the wrong language in our head. We have the wrong verbiage in our head about our righteousness or about our worth right? It's a completely upside down sense of who we really are. If we walk past someone, if I step over someone that has a need, I'm overestimating my own worth. Every time. And then you see in this illustration, which I believe would be true because I've seen it in my life, that people are just stunned by kindness. They're stunned by overt love. They're stunned by this kind of behavior. They're stunned and they don't know what to do. I want to stun the world around me. I want people to be like astonished. I mentioned being at the Bellevue Cafe the other day. There was another day I was there. I go to Bellevue Cafe a lot. And as I was sitting with who I was with, I noticed there was a young man, probably in his 20s, with his grandma, and they were talking about something. I mean, I assume it was her grandma, right? And like during the conversation, he's just weeping, right? Just weeping. And so when they got up, when they were done, like I excused myself from my conversation, and I went and I held that guy for a second. Now, I didn't tell him, listen, I'm a pastor at this church. Here's the address. Here's our service times, right? I didn't give him a Bible tract that said, hey, listen, if you need Jesus, you can have salvation today if you just say this prayer. That's not what I did. I just hugged that guy. I asked him first, because don't just walk up, Jimmy, and start hugging people. I asked him first, right? And then I held him. Like, I don't know, is he having problems with his dad? Did he not know his dad? Could I just be a stand-in for his dad for a second? Yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold you for a second. Because as we know, Scott hugs are kind of famous hugs, right? And so I'm going to hold you for a second. Right? And he cried. I didn't give him nothing else. I didn't say, here's my number, call me. I just needed to hug him. Now, what difference is that going to make? I don't need to get credit for it. I had a guy come in here once talking about how we can evangelize to other people. And he talked about how he would like knock them down. Another one I knocked down. Knocked another one down. What are you talking about, bro? Who are you knocking down? What notches in your Bible are you taking track of? I'm not called to knock anyone down. I'm not called really to convert anyone. I'm called to make disciples of the whole world. You know how I do that? By hugging guys I don't know. By telling ladies that probably need it how beautiful they are. Right? That's how I do it. Not through my biblical knowledge, not through my theological expertise, but by loving other people. That's how Jesus did it. And that's how I should do it. That's how you should do it. You don't need to be a Bible expert to make people believe in Jesus Christ. You just need to believe him and act like it. But are you acting like it? Am I acting like it? We don't serve for the applause. We serve to reveal Jesus. You look most like Jesus, not when you're leading the crowd, but when you're kneeling with a towel and serving a crowd. That's when you look like Jesus. Not on a platform with a table of book sales in the back, not with 100 million Instagram followers. I look at when I'm serving somebody else. What if I told you that Jesus is more proud of you when you return a grocery cart in from the parking lot than when you get a commendation at work? What if I told you that Jesus values the moment you stop to help a neighbor carry groceries far more than hitting your personal goals for the week? What if I told you that Jesus celebrates you more for patiently helping your child with their shoes than closing a big deal at work? What if I told you that Jesus is more proud of the way you give someone your full attention than the way that you give a perfect presentation? What if I told you that heaven celebrates more when you apologize first than when you win an argument? Do you see the trend? Love without repayment, love without recognition, love without expectation, love without strings. I feel like I'm making this the Scott Show today. I'm not trying to do that. Please, if you know me, you know this isn't my thing. I'm not trying, but I know, oh my gosh. I lost the clicker. Oh my God, when did I set it? Oh, because I sat down for the thing, yeah. A few weeks ago, I told you this story. I'm going to tell you again, not so that you think I'm awesome, because I'm not. I'm a sham. I went to the grocery store because my wife needed something. I don't know, a special kind of chocolate chip. I don't know what it was. It was something. By the way, my wife makes the best chocolate chunk cookies on the planet. And then yesterday, without me even being home, she made those, I think I've told you about her. She makes these like bacon avocado ranch egg rolls. Oh my. She's so good in the kitchen. Anyway, so I went to the grocery store to get her something. And I walked in. This isn't the actual grocery store. This is generated by AI, in case you couldn't tell. But I walked into the doors. And so when I walked in, there was his dad, not this dad, with his kids and a grocery cart talking to the festival lady, right? And they were having a conversation. And so I slowed down because I don't know why, right? And then he leaves with his kids with the grocery cart still there. So I add, 2 and 2 together. And I said, was this guy unable to pay for his groceries? She said, yeah, his card was declined. And so then I paid for his groceries, right? Please don't think I'm awesome. I'm not, right? But I paid for his groceries because I've been poor. I've been to the grocery store and my card get declined, or my time card. You remember when we had time cards? If you're in Wisconsin, you know what that is. That was like the original ATM card was called a time card. Yes, take your money everywhere. That's what time stood for. Anyway, I've been there, right? So here's these kids with this grocery cart, probably full of Kicks or, like Fruit Loops, some of them they really wanted, and they had to walk out with their dad because their dad couldn't afford to pay for it, right? And they're like, dang it, but I really wanted the Fruit Loops, Dad. And he's got to look at his kids, and that was why I paid. It didn't matter to me how much that was going to be, but having been in that place, I didn't want that for that guy for one more minute. So I paid for his groceries, and I ran his card out to him. He's like, I just realized, you explain anything to me, brother. Just be blessed. And I tell you that because these things are happening all around us all the time. All the time, there's some guy in another booth crying over his dad or something, right? All the time, there's someone that just needs you to love him. There's a lonely veteran that just needs someone to look at him for a second. All the time, these people are around us. And God's saying, be more like me. And we're trying to think of ways I can be more holy. How can I be more perfect? How can I be more sinless like Jesus? And Jesus is like, bro, you're never going to be sinless. You don't have it in you. When I say be like me, if you were like me in sinlessness, you wouldn't need me. The way that you can be like me is if you can love other people. Do it this way. Time and time again, Jesus shows us that way. I just want to show you one more thing. I just want to show you before we leave what the language of Christ's love looks like. These are the things that we say all the time. These are the things that I believe that we're prone to say. That's not my problem. I don't have time for you. You're being dramatic. Just deal with it. I don't want to get involved. Someone else can handle that. I need to protect my comfort. How do I get out of it? Or what do I get out of it? Come back when you've cleaned yourself up. Hurry up and get to the point. I don't want this to cost me anything. Why aren't you more like me? It'll help if it benefits me. I'll help if it benefits me. As long as I'm good, that's all that counts. You don't deserve grace from me. Does this sound where your heart? This is me. This is me all the time. This is the language I use all the time in my head. This is the soundtrack of my flesh, of my heart. Not my problem. Not my circus, not my monkeys. That's your problem, bro. You know what I mean? See somebody asking for money outside the Walmart, right? And we're like, not my problem, man. If you would have just made a better decision earlier, or you know what happened? I think you're making $80,000 a year off this panhandling. That's what I think. La 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 la. What? Instead, we should have things like this on our mind, on our lips. How can I support you right now? Tell me your story. I want to understand. Your pain matters to me. Let me sit with you in this. How can I lighten your load? I'm here. You're not alone. What's best for you in this moment? I'll walk with you through this mess. I want to understand your heart. I can be inconvenienced if it's for your good. I see God at work in you. How can I serve you in love? If this matters to you, it matters to me. I choose to forgive even if it hurts. This should be the soundtrack of our heart. This should be the soundtrack of our lives. This is how we follow Jesus in his way of love. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to render all my sins to completely forgotten. I never do them again. That's not if I do all these things, if I live this way, all my sins are taken care of. I can't live this way and sin, as it turns out. I can live this way and sin all day long. All day long. If this is your soundtrack, all day long you can live in your sin. But if I start living this, there's no way I can be sinning. I can't sin against someone I'm loving. And that's the truth of it. Anyway, it's late. like we always say, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Please don't take my words for gospel. Please don't take my words for like cut in stone and this is the way it's got to be. What happens next is the true beauty of church. And so we've got a handful of questions that Chelsea's going to pull up for you right now. We're going to take 15 minutes at your tables for you to talk this through. You can use these questions or use your own questions to say, what did you think of that? Or that guy was full of crap, don't you think? However you want it to be, just use these next 15 minutes to talk that through, and then we'll close. You're good, okay.
Broadway, but public service.